In this lesson, I want to talk a lot about just some of the basics with fueling an adolescent athlete in regards to hydration, recovery nutrition, and just some of the things that really prevent our young athletes from getting proper nutrition and taking care of themselves. And so some of the problems with adolescent nutrition include time. I mean, they are so busy all the time and often find themselves running late or skipping meals and that sort of thing because they do not feel like they have enough time. Lack of sleep. We know that technology has an effect on how much sleep our teenagers are getting. And then also waking up for school and that sort of thing. Lack of planning. And I know for even as adults, sometimes it's hard to plan out our day accordingly and things happen that we can't control, but that also is one of the main problems with adolescent nutrition. Food availability. If our students are going from school straight to their practice or their competition, what is available? Is there something that they can grab, or are they just not going to eat anything or go to a vending machine? Convenience. They like convenience foods, and so after a practice or before a practice, they will go and get foods that are not usually the highest in nutritional value for what their performance goals and their performance needs. And so convenience can be it can have a negative impact on their nutrition. Travel. If we have any athletes they get on the bus after school and then they have to drive an hour to their competition, what are they eating? Are they hydrating well? Are they not eating anything at all? And then lack of knowledge. And this can be combined with the overexposure to fad diets and supplements. We don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times as young athletes, their source of information comes from friends, coaches, people who have the best intentions in mind, but don't necessarily have the proper knowledge to really help the student athlete get what they need or really reach their goals from a nutrition perspective. So what can we do as far as we know the problems with adolescent nutrition. So what are some solutions? So first one is make nutrition a priority with time. And so how do we do that? And this can be combined with planning. And so after school, or one of the things that I do as soon as I'm done with my day is before I sit down and before I get ready to rest for the evening, I will think about what my kids have the next day. What activities do they have? Is that going to interrupt a normal meal time? And so with that, I take that time right after I get home and spend about 30 minutes or so really planning out the next day. So do I have to pack extra snacks for my child? Do I have to make sure that they have a bigger lunch than normal at school just so that they have enough fuel to get through the day? Lack of sleep, I think it's so important. There's so much that happens with teenagers while they're sleeping. I mean, we're talking about consolidating memories, we're talking about growing, building muscle, recovering, repair, just muscle relaxation. So many things are happening during sleep, and it's vital that our young people understand how important it is to really get rest. And so one of the things I would encourage them to do is to set a bedtime, and it could be a range. So I'm going to get to bed between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. It doesn't have to be at 10 o'clock or at 10:30. I'm just going to set a range, and sometimes that gives them a little bit more ownership, and if they don't get to bed at 10 o'clock, they don't feel like they've failed. They have an hour to really get situated and get to bed. Food availability. So find out what is available at different events and practices. Is it concession stand food where it's low quality and cheap? If so, what can I pack in their backpacks or send with them? And then convenience. So you can even at fast food restaurants and convenience stores, you can still make better choices. And so getting foods that are grilled or baked is obviously going to be better than fried. If you're going to a sandwich place, get extra meat so that it's not just bread, those sorts of things. And then with the overexposure to just false information, just really, it's going to be so important to find a trusted source of nutrition information so that our kids are not going to the internet or someone who does not have the information that they can present to our athletes in a true and honest manner. So they have to find a trusted source of nutrition information. A registered dietitian is going to be your best source of nutrition information. The last topic I want to cover is recovery nutrition. And recovery nutrition is important because while we're active and exercising, we're doing a lot of damage. We're depleting our energy stores, we're breaking down muscle, and so we've kind of broken ourselves apart. Now, how do we put that all back together? And recovery nutrition is just that. Why is recovery nutrition important? Well, research has shown that nitrogen loss is more than doubled following exercise in a glycogen depleted state versus a glycogen loaded state. This means that it is harder to build muscle without recovery. So nitrogen losses, that's basically your protein is breaking down so much. So if you, during your workout, like I said, you're breaking down muscle, which is normal. You have to break down so that you can build it back up. But if you are exercising and you're depleted and then you stop exercising and you don't recover, you're continually depleted. And so it just means that it's going to be a lot harder to build muscle without recovery nutrition if you're not taking care of yourself. Delaying carbohydrate intake by even 2 hours after exercise can decrease the rate of muscle glycogen synthesis by as much as 50%. So we know our muscles use carbohydrates as their main energy source. So if you don't consume carbohydrates after you exercise, then it's going to really have an effect on how efficient your muscles are at putting carbohydrates back in so that you're prepared for the next day's workout. So it would be like if you needed 16 ounces of water and you decided to only drink 8 ounces of water and that was all, and then you showed up for another workout and you only did half the job, you're only going to get half the results that you really wanted. So you really have to make sure you're getting carbohydrates and protein for post-workout. Recovery nutrition helps decrease muscle breakdown when you recover properly with carbohydrates and protein. And if you don't recover after workouts, protein breakdown, which is muscle breakdown, can continue for up to 24 hours after the workout. So this is where a lot of people will say, you can practice as hard as you want, you can be in the weight room as much as you want, but if you don't take care of yourself from a nutrition perspective, all that other stuff was much less important. So what is recovery nutrition? So there's 2 phases. And so phase 1 happens within the first 30 to 45 minutes after exercise. So what happens here is your body shifts from a breakdown or catabolic state to a build-up anabolic state. So this is where after you get done training, your body's like, all right, we broke down a lot. Now it's time to build. Now let's put it all back together. So here you're building new proteins, you're replenishing carbohydrate stores, reestablishing your optimal fluid and electrolytes, you're repairing tissues. So this step can can seriously enhance the complete recovery process. This is just the first component that helps put it all together. So also what some people don't realize is that when you get a recovery snack after a workout, it will help prevent you from grazing and overeating later in the day. And this is true for a lot of female athletes. A lot of times female athletes will say, I just burned all these calories. Why would I want to put them back in? And 2 reasons. One, you need to recover to rebuild the damage that you've done and replenish the energy stores that you burned through. And 2, it's going to be helpful so that you're not overeating on sugary and high fat foods later in the day. So it's really, really important. Then we have the second phase of recovery, and this is considered the complete or slower recovery. And this can last up to a couple of days. And your rate of recovery will slow after the first few hours. So if you're not recovering like we talked about within that 30 to 45 minutes, it's going to take a lot longer to completely recover. So for example, if you did not consume a post-workout recovery, then glycogen or carbohydrate stores may take 24 hours or more to completely be restored, and your muscle damage may require several days to be rebuilt. And for a lot of athletes, like they just don't have that much time. They have to recover right away. And ideally, ideally they say, you should wait 24 hours for your next training session. And for most athletes, they don't have 24 hours. A lot of athletes will have 2 practices in one day. So that makes the recovery phase that much more important. And so this can also be a meal. It doesn't have to be a snack. And so even if you get done with your training, your workout, and that 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to have a meal, that can be your initial phase of recovery. And then say your phase 2 of recovery, that could be a snack. Or you could flip it around. Phase 1 could be more of a snack, and phase 2 could be a meal. It doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you're refueling after your activity. So I mentioned getting carbohydrates and protein. And now I know some of these things may not be as accessible, but just to give you some examples of carbohydrates, bread, fruit, there's different recovery shakes. I know there's probably some there too. Different types of bars, Gatorade, chocolate milk, rice is a great one. If we're looking more meal options, you could do rice, potatoes, pasta, beans, all those different things too. There's carbohydrates. And you can see I have turkey and cheese sandwich, and you might say, wait a minute, I thought turkey was a protein. It is. You can see right across where I also listed turkey and cheese sandwich because that has both. Same with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Peanut butter PBJ is going to have carbohydrates, but it's also going to have some protein as well. And so a lot of these things, recovery snacks, they do double dip. The chocolate milk has both. So there's some things that can definitely double dip and work for both things. But protein, and this too, like with your proteins, it can be fish, pork, beef, chicken, those sorts of things as well. It doesn't just have to be these snack type options.